You wanna get the best Detroit-style sourdough pizza you've ever had? Then keep watching, because I'm gonna show you. Now, we have to start this recipe the day before, because we have to do our poulish. For that, 100 grams all-purpose flour and 100 grams whole wheat flour mixed together with 200 grams of water and around 1 tablespoon of our sourdough starter. Mix all that together, cover it, let it go to sleep. Now it's next morning and it should have doubled in size. We're gonna add 200 grams of it into a bowl. We're gonna add 600 grams of lukewarm water. Mix all that together until there no bigger clumps are there anymore. We're going to add 900 grams of bread flour and 100 grams of whole wheat flour. Mix all that together for like 5 minutes. Take it out, let it sit for a half an hour to let bulk ferment. Now in the meantime, we're gonna mix 50 grams of water with 20 grams of salt. Put that into our now risen dough and knead it in by hand at first, and then use your dough hook attachment and let it knead for about 10 minutes. Now we're gonna let the dough sit for around 30 minutes again before we're going to stretch our dough for the first time, which you can see now. We're gonna lift it up, fold it down, go once around the whole dough, and that's it. We're gonna repeat this for another 4 to 5 times, just every 30 minutes for a span of 3 hours. Now the dough looks like this, should be nicely risen and airy, really great. Now we're gonna split the dough because this is actually enough for 2 pizzas. Or you could just make a sourdough bread out of the other part. So now we have to shape the loaf dough. For that, just use your bench scraper, try to scrape around the ground on the dough and form it into this nicely round shape. You can wet your hands if it helps. Sprinkle some flour on top and then just cover it with a towel for another 30 minutes. After that, it's time to put it into our cast iron form. You can use cast iron if you have it, if not, use whatever rectangular form you have. Season it with some oil. I used olive oil here. Put your dough in and stretch it a little bit. You can also pre-stretch it, what I'm doing here, just to get a little bit of a rectangular form at first, which will help later to really stretch the dough into all the corners. Now, really make sure this cast iron is seasoned, like really packed with oil, because otherwise this whole thing is going to stick, since it's going to last in there for a little bit. We're gonna cover it and let it sit for around 10 minutes before we're gonna stretch it a little more, because the gluten needs to rest, so you will not be able to stretch it all the way to the corners first time. You might have to do this like 2 or 3 tries until you reach all the corners. Let it sit for around 2 hours. Now in the meantime, we're gonna make our sauce. We're gonna start with dicing half onion and put that aside. Now we're gonna use 1 can of diced tomatoes, 400 grams or 14.5 ounces, and 1 clove of garlic. We're gonna add around 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, around 1 tablespoon of sugar, half a tablespoon of basil and half a tablespoon oregano, and also a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. I have all the conversions in the description, so you can see what it is in grams or whatever. Now, mix all that together with an immersion blender or whatever you have, and then we're going to actually cook our sauce, since that really helps to intensify the flavor. First, we're going to roast the onions. Just make sure until they're really nice, glazy and like shiny, shimmery color, something like this, a little brown. And now you should add around a quarter cup of red wine, but I'm a doofus and I forgot about that. So I added the tomato and you can hear me now complaining. Fuck. Now, since I got that out of the system, I decided to add the red wine anyways and just try to let it boil out the alcohol a little bit, since it really helps with the color and the flavor. So don't do that. First the red wine, let the alcohol evaporate, and then you add all your tomato paste. Let it cook down until it's really thickened and most of the water is kind of evaporated, so you can see it here, and you can really put like the spoon through it and it doesn't run back together. Put it into a bowl and let it cool down until we need it, probably at least 30 minutes. Now it's time to prepare our toppings. I decided to use around 150 grams of pepperoni. Also decided to cut it myself, since that helps with the flavor, and it's nicer if you have them a little bit thicker compared to really thin ones. And now we need a brick. Yeah, not this brick, this brick. We need brick cheese. If you can't get any, don't feel bad, you can get minced cheese as well, and use around 350 to 400 grams. I decided to grate it, since that helps to spread it out nicely. Now our dough should be fully risen and spread into all the corners. Now put all the cheese on top. I know the cheese, not the sauce. First the cheese. We're gonna put 3 lanes of sauce on top of there, and then we're gonna put our toppings later on top. Now this is somewhat of the signature of the Detroit style pizza, plus that it's made in a traditionally blue steel pan. I use my cast iron pan here, works the same. And this will help to really almost fry your dough from the side. All the cheese runs down the side and really helps to fry the dough and makes this nice crispy brown crust. It's just amazing. Also sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on it. If you have some, definitely would recommend doing that. Now it goes into the oven for around 15 to 17 minutes by 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 260 degrees Celsius. And now this here is the final result. Just this amazing piece of pizza. Like, you have this nice crispy deep fried crust, like little bits of like dark cheese bits there, and like this fluffiness of dough inside. Like, it's moist thanks to the sourdough and it tastes so good. Really give this a try. And if you like it, hit subscribe and I'll see you next week.